Okay, holy crap, I'm doing this. I've written this video at least 3 times now, and I wasn't sure I'd ever write it. But this very possibly could be my last video on YouTube, and so if there's one you're gonna watch to the end, this is probably a good one. Please just bear with me as I roll the intro. So before I get into the meat of the video, I need to talk about you, my sponsors. So many of the viewers of this channel have supported me over the years, whether it be through Patreon or all kinds of other means. And to be clear, my Patreon isn't taking new supporters. I'm not making a request for more support. But you guys have changed my life in terms of allowing me to take on what is basically the job of a lifetime in my personal view, making videos online about trains and buses. So for that, thank you a million times. So I think this is the end, but the beginning of the end was actually probably when I made last year's year in review video, which actually popped off, so that was special. Hopefully this one gets even more views. The reality is, over the last year, I've tried to spend more time on every video, and I hope the results have been clear to you. I think the stuff I've put out this year has been really excellent, and I'm very proud of it, especially the Shenzhen video. I also actually moved, which you wouldn't know from watching the videos because most of the videos, in fact all of the videos over the last several months, were recorded before I moved. I'm actually living in a very suburban area, but despite that, I'm basically not driving. I walk a lot, usually over 10 kilometers a day, I get on the bike when there isn't a foot of snow outside, and I of course take tons of public transport. And because of that, I've actually only been in a car a handful of times in the last few months, which is a good reminder that the typical Canadian suburb, not North American suburb, actually doesn't make you as car dependent as some people might suggest. You do have to work for it a bit though. Now, you see, the reason I moved is that my partner and I, who has helped me all of these years filming these videos, actually had a kid this year, which is a bit of a trend in the urbanist YouTube space for some reason. And as anyone does when they're having a kid, we spent nights and weekends all summer long making sure there was lots of extra videos done so that we could keep making videos out through the rest of 2024. That way we could take time off of YouTube while we were spending time on our little one. And that means I haven't actually made a video, really besides this video, for months. And honestly, trying to write scripts for new videos, I've realized that I probably can't, at least not anytime soon. For those of you that have noticed and commented that I have lost some weight, it's not Ozempic, it's the original Ozempic, diet and exercise. Who knew that running, lifting weights, and eating much better every day for a year would have that effect? More seriously though, I do feel much better. I've lost like 50 pounds over the last just a bit more than a year or so, and I feel much healthier. Really recommend it. Health is good. So no more videos? Well, there might be a few, but no time soon. There are some places and things which do still justify proper RMTransit videos, and I would feel bad if I didn't at least cover them before closing things out completely. I want to do a video on the Beijing subway, I need to cover the Moscow metro, and I need to do a final pièce de résistance Chinese high-speed rail explainer video because that network is incredible and it's kind of hard to get your head around. But to be clear, I'm not in a rush to make any of these videos, and I'd be surprised if I make more than one of them in the next year. I just do want to tie things off with a bow, so to speak, with the YouTube channel. To some extent, I feel less of a desire to create stuff. Originally, a lot of the utility of my channel was to talk about transit projects that not a lot of people were talking about, at least not on YouTube, and that has been something that has actually started to fill out, and that makes me really excited. There are more voices in the conversation, and other people have seen what I'm doing and started doing similar things, and I think that's fantastic. Now, I moved on from making transit project construction update videos a long time ago. And that's not because I don't think these videos are important. They're actually some of my personal favorites to watch, especially for cities that I'm particularly interested in. There's been some incredible content appearing on YouTube about transit projects and transport projects over recent years, including all kinds of crazy drone footage of projects like HS2 and some of the SkyTrain expansion in Vancouver. I've just, from the beginning of the channel, always felt that my knowledge could probably be better used in other places. The reality is, RMTransit isn't really a transit advocacy channel. Of course, I am a transit advocate. I browbeat my family and friends into taking the bus when we travel around, and of course I frequently engage in all kinds of other advocacy-related stuff. But the point of RMTransit is really not to suggest that all transit projects or transit systems are good, or as good as they could be. I actually think there's a real blindness, particularly in the US, including in urbanist spheres, around this idea that just building a rail system or any transit project is enough, or that alone will create a transit-oriented renaissance. You'll often see articles talking about the big builds in cities like Los Angeles and Denver, but there's rarely much critique of the projects, how they're being built, why they're being built, where they're being built, and the enormous amounts of money being spent on them. For all of the money and effort spent in Denver, for example, many of the rail lines move less people than modest bus lines in Toronto. My point is, Toronto has good buses, other cities have good buses too, but Toronto is in North America. There are other North American cities who could surely aim to be a bit more like Toronto. And I think that celebrating ad nauseum the fact that transit is being built in cities with marginal transit use and projects that get little ridership misses the point. It's a bit crazy. If we want to transform the world to be more transit-oriented, people actually have to get on the trains. It's the same sort of issue that plagues North American cities, and yes, in this I include Canadian cities as well, where we build weird transit projects with technology that's ill-suited for the operations and route we choose, while barely touching the core backbone technologies that support so many transit systems around the world, like electric regional rail. I guess the fundamental thing here is that I think you have to get a lot right to have a great transit network. Frequency, speed, and capacity are not tertiary elements of a transit system. You can't just build a train and have success no matter what. You actually have to get the details right. If all you needed for a successful transit network was spiffy electric trains and a cross-city tunnel, then Philly's train network wouldn't move only half as many as Toronto's every day, despite Toronto's having clunky old diesel trains. I think the point is that the planning and the service and the design, all of these things matter a lot. But if your ridership is low, you're clearly doing something wrong, and no amount of cool infrastructure can make up for a transit system that doesn't actually move people. That's the point of a transit system. So RMTransit mostly isn't a transit channel about press releases or talking about the latest transit megaproject just because I can and megaprojects are cool. It's about critiquing the things we build and the things we have built and comparing different cities and where they succeed and fall. It's about trying to elevate conversations about transit into conversations about good transit, and having people take a global perspective, being less exceptionalist about their own cities, and realizing that we all have something to learn from other places, even places that seem like they don't have a lot going for them. And I'm proud of what I did to achieve that. Some people have said to me that they're sad that they're not going to get more of me, but do you really want more of me? I've made well over 900 videos and covered over 50 cities in the last 8 or so years, and I've replied to tens of thousands of comments. I think more than almost any other YouTube channel out there that isn't literally a travel channel, I've talked about places all around the world, and I've talked about all kinds of different stuff. I've literally stayed up all night for this YouTube channel, shed blood, sweat, and tears for this channel, and suffered through a lot of annoyance for this channel. But there's a lot of content up there, and I seriously doubt anyone has actually watched every one of my videos. I mean, I barely have. There's actually over 200 hours of video on my YouTube channel, and I think a lot of the old videos still stand up, and there's a lot of worthwhile stuff you can learn from it, even if the production value is sometimes quite dubious. But the cool thing is that you can actually see how my production value has changed, and my opinions as well, because I think most open-minded people will change their opinion when they're presented with countervailing evidence or as their views evolve. Ultimately, even if you think one of my YouTube videos isn't about a particular city, I've always tried to bring up all kinds of examples from all over the world in different videos. So you might be surprised about the connections that get drawn in a video about Europe from places like North America, Australia, and Asia. It's funny, actually, people have previously compared me to Alec from Technology Connections, which is a channel I never actually watched until my child was born, and then I had a lot of time on my hands, and so I watched a lot of Technology Connections, and wow, that's a real honor to be compared to that. It's a fantastic channel, kind of the bread and butter of what makes YouTube good, and Alec is one of those people that I think would be really fun to have a conversation with. But it's the same idea. Alec doesn't make videos about the technology so he can talk about the technology. He wants to talk about the connections and the behind the scenes and his critiques and his comments and the interesting factoids. And I think that my channel has tried to do something similar for transit systems. Ultimately, this has been an amazing job. Online flame wars, comments, and not knowing what next month's paycheck will look like until next month notwithstanding. But moments like having someone come up to you on the other side of the world and tell you that they learned something from one of your YouTube videos is the kind of thing that just can't be replaced with anything. That being said, something that is even harder than YouTube is good public transport. To be clear, I think the world, and Canada more specifically, are trending in the right direction, but there's going to be a lot of rocky seas ahead, and I'm just not sure I can emotionally take that. I'd like to say that I've grown much more optimistic about the long term, but much more cynical about the short term, and our institutions' ability to actually deliver the transit that we all deserve and that many of us want. We should be concerned that our major transport authorities are so often not very transparent or humble despite their well-known failings and transit projects which have frequently gone off the rails, and unfortunately sometimes literally gone off the rails. But ultimately we are building, and that's good, and it's an important first step. And I've grown far less cynical about the average person's willingness to accept that cars are not the be-all end-all of urban transportation and that public transit is pretty great. You'd be surprised how many people, when you actually talk to them, sit down with them face to face and say, hey, cars, they're kind of annoying and they have a lot of downfalls. We should have more public transportation. Most people are not going to disagree with you, even people who you might not think like public transit. Of course, also visiting a city with a truly exceptional public transport system is still very good at converting even non-believers into believers into the way of public transit. But ultimately, I've said a lot. I've seen a lot of progress, as well as some backstepping, and I think it's time for me to ride off into the sunset so that new voices can take the stage. I don't want to keep making YouTube videos just because that's what I do. I've said most of what I want to say, besides Moscow, Beijing, and Chinese high-speed rail. And I don't want to just keep making videos and become an old, crusty, cynical RMTransit. I honestly never expected YouTube to be my first career. I went to school for computer science, and so I expected to be a software engineer or something of the like, and I had a job lined up before I started the whole full-time YouTube thing. I did YouTube because when an opportunity like that comes up, it would be foolish not to take hold of it, especially when you're stuck inside thanks to a global pandemic with your laptop and Google Maps. Going forward, I really hope that you'll stay in touch with me. The community around this channel has honestly been the greatest thing for me, being able to meet all kinds of people who are professionals or just passionate advocates and cool people who realize that, yeah, having more options for getting around our cities is a good thing. So if you want to stay in touch with me, you can do it via various means. Ultimately, you can stay subscribed to the YouTube channel. I'll probably post somewhat infrequently here, but you can also follow me in places like Mastodon, and yes, Blue Sky, though if you want to directly interact with me, Mastodon's far better because it's just a quieter platform. And I think it's filled with people who are a bit more bought into the idea that social media has a lot of serious problems. You can also follow me on Instagram, which I might have to start posting on again because I guess I'm not posting here. And you can subscribe to my blog and connect with me on LinkedIn or whatever you want to do. Just connect. It's nice to know the people that have enjoyed my videos and people who enjoy public transit. It means a lot to me, and honestly, I think the community of people is kind of the most important thing I've built through all of these YouTube videos over the years, even though I think the videos are quite nice. As for me, I don't really know what I'm going to do. Maybe I'll go into software engineering, maybe I'll try to become a computer science instructor, join a startup that's working on a transit-related app or mapping or something. Maybe I'll ask the university if I can become a TA again. I really don't know. That's kind of the point of life. It's a chaotic mess. You never know what's coming. The fun is in the journey. And I do know wherever I'm going, I'll most likely be taking the train or bus. So I think this may have been a bit anticlimactic, but despite that, I am so grateful to all of you for watching me, watching my videos over the years, all of your support, and just your passion about public transit. So keep in touch. Thanks for everything. And as always, I'll see you in the future. Thanks.